Society now has become so fast-paced and we're so reliant on technology. It obviously has come with many benefits, but I think as a result we can lose that human connection to our products and the things, beautiful things around our home and in our lives. I'm Kate Milbank, I'm a printmaker. I work from my studio at home in Aberlady, which is in the beautiful county of East Lothian, and we're about 5 minutes away from the sea. I mostly make lino prints and decorative items for the home. We live very close to a local nature reserve. In fact, it was the first bird reserve ever to be set up in Britain in the early 50s. So I spend a lot of time out there with my sketchbook and walking along the salt marsh and across the sand dunes. So when I'm there, I'm always aware of how much bird life there is. It's a real kind of mecca for attracting coastal birds, both native and migratory birds. So when you're out in the salt marsh sketching, you can really hear the sounds of curlews and lapwings. You see oyster catchers wading around. And then in the autumn, you get huge squadrons of pink-footed geese that kind of come in to land and roost on the marsh. They're just such a prominent part of the environment around here, so it seems very fitting to give them centre stage in most of my prints. I've always loved printmaking, but I haven't always been a printmaker. I actually studied fashion design at Central St Martin's and worked as a designer in Paris and London for quite a few years. Became very sort of fed up and disillusioned, I guess, with the fast fashion industry and how that was impacting on the people that work in it, but also the environment as well. So I went off and studied sustainable design out in Wales, and then from there worked as an environmental consultant for a few years. So while the children were tiny and at nursery, I would enrol on some short courses. So I spent a year really learning lots of different printing techniques, practicing, working with inks and different cutting marks and things. And then once they finally started school, that's when I was able to establish my studio and start selling my work. I particularly love lino printing, partly because it's such an accessible material. You don't need any expensive equipment or a fancy print studio. But I also love the aesthetic that lino print gives. It's got a very bold, graphic look to it, but also quite naive as well in its style. So lino printing, it's quite a long process. For every single colour that you want to have in a print, you have to cut a different block. Every colour needs new cut marks. When I first started printmaking, it would take me several months to make just one print. So I've since refined my process and I now try to limit my colour palette to 2, maybe 3 colours. And so for each block that I'm cutting, because I'm using a reduced colour palette, I really have to think about using the cut line to describe texture and tone, because I'm not having such a wide array of colours. And if I do feel a print needs more colours, then I will quite often cut one master block and then use colour washes, which gives a completely different effect and also means that every print is unique, which people seem to really love. When I'm thinking about doing a print, I spend a lot of time outside, by the coast, by the sea or further inland, and depending on what the seasons are doing, they are often, I'll find the plants and the animals that are typical of that season will kind of creep into my prints, as will the colour palette as well. So if I'm working on something that's very autumnal, I quite often get drawn to oranges and rusty autumnal colours, whereas in the spring it seems to become a lot brighter and more vibrant. Last year we decided to get 3, it started off as 3 pet chickens. Boys really wanted pets, so this is what we decided upon. They're lovely animals to have around in the garden, and we obviously have the eggs. And 3 soon became 5 hens, so we now have 5 of them that roam totally free around the house and quite often find their way into the house as well. And it was about the time that I got the hens that I was also designing some greeting cards and decorations that had hens featured on them. And it's something that I would like to revisit at some point, because I do enjoy getting out there and sketching them in my sketchbook as well. I think our society now has become so fast-paced and we're so reliant on technology. It obviously has come with many benefits, but I think as a result we can lose that human connection to our products and the things, beautiful things around our home and in our lives. I think it's really important when you buy something or when you have something that you can relate to it and see the skill and the time and the craftsmanship that's gone into that product. I think it'd be very sad if we woke up one morning and found that everything was made by AI and computer. It's really nice to know that when you buy something that you've supported someone's livelihood and their skills.